So we have Alison, who played Jessie in the film, and then Emily Lape, who is writer, actor, director of the film, which is quite a lot of responsibility and also direction to take. So for you, like, what did that look like as you were working from the writing process, and then especially on set, where you're kind of doing all the things at once?
All the things?
Yes.
Writing, I never pictured that I would act as well. It kind of just happened by coincidence. I had put out casting notices, and we just had like so little turn up. I think because of the nudity and the subject matter, and I couldn't pay that much per day. It was like on a micro budget. I was waiting tables, trying to get it made. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have that big of a turnout. And then my sister actually suggested, she was like, why don't you just do it? You and Alison already have great chemistry, so go for it. Oh. I didn't know really what I was getting myself in for.
Yeah.
But, on set, it was great. I had a wonderful cinematographer named Justin Howe. He's in here. And so we were able to kind of, when I had like director hat on, like block the shots, talk about the different angles and stuff like that. And then I was able to like separate and go and concentrate on the acting bit, and then come in and do the performance. And we'd review the footage together and kind of make adjustments and stuff like that. So it was a lot of like putting on and taking off hats.
Yeah, so did that kind of expand the amount of time you guys spent on set, since you have to like kind of go back and forth between looking on screen?
Me and him just kind of like had this natural like unspoken language we developed, and I really trusted him. He's such a great eye, and that we flowed really well together. So no, we were pretty much in and out pretty quickly, did a couple of takes.
Wow.
Yeah, we moved really fast.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot of it was actually shot down the street from here.
Yes.
I don't know how many people are familiar with this neighborhood, but the opening shot is like 500 feet from here.
Right.
So, and like in terms of your casting experience, I know some of the folks you talked to at the podcast, you had some interesting things to say about the difficulty you had looking for locations. So can you just like speak a little bit to that?
Well, I think that we got kind of like both polar opposites. Once people found out the subject matter, unfortunately we got a little bit of like pushback at locations. Some locations actually canceled on us when they found out that it was about a woman falling in love with another woman. But then we also had the polar opposite, where we had like a huge amount of support from the community that was like, oh, okay, last minute location, and people supplied that. So it was like so opposite. We never knew what we were gonna get when we'd show up. But yeah.
Yeah. Was a lot of it shot in kind of Ravenswood, Lincoln Square?
Yeah, Ravenswood, Andersonville, and Lincoln Square. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I just moved here and I was like, oh my god, oh my god. So when you were writing this film, is it the first kind of piece you've written? And then if so, like how much of this were you writing, like kind of pulling from personal experience? Like where were you kind of pulling the story from both the characters, and then for your trajectory?
It is the first feature film I wrote. I had written shorts and like gotten a lot of outlines and progress, and I was really just on fire at this time because there was a couple just like unfortunate, like really bad news articles about young teens like committing suicide with the pressures of like coming out and stuff like that. And I knew I had a little budget, so I couldn't do anything like over the top, like an action or whatever, a biopic, large biopic. So I was like, okay, what am I really passionate about right now? And how can I make sense of like the locations and the budget that I have? So that's how like it originated. And then what was the rest of the question?
That's a good question. Just kind of like if any of it was pulled from your personal experiences.
Well, I can definitely relate, and it was inspired by some of my personal experiences, but it was also inspired by like news articles and friends and different personal relationships.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually sitting in the audience with my girlfriend, and that conversation that the character has with her dad is exactly how I came out to my mom.
Yeah.
Like, even to the point where I was like, well, I'm dating this person and she's a nurse. I was just, we were sitting there like, we were like, what is this? So in terms of your role, so how did you meet? It sounds like you guys have a relationship coming in, so like how many projects have you worked on together?
This is my first one and my first feature as well.
Okay.
I was one of the brave people that auditioned. And so, I mean, immediately Emily and I had chemistry and a connection, and I believed in her vision, and I don't know, she was a really amazing director because she believed in me and she believed in my talent to improvise. And so a lot of the script was, we had a lot of fun just like improvising, and yeah.
So I guess then that kind of comes off of your Q&A too. So how much of the script did you improvise as kind of the scenes took you? Did you find that happened a lot? You kind of mutated away from script, or is it more like the mood that kind of moved away from script?
I think like working with like a micro budget, you have to always be on your feet. So, I mean, we'd go with scenes that have been written, but she also had the flexibility of going off instinct and what worked for us throughout the day, because a lot changed. And we just went with the flow and we trusted what we wanted to do. So there's only 4 of us on set, so we really had to rely on each other.
Yeah, and I think one thing probably a lot of filmmakers here can relate to is that indie films have a lot of obstacles, including micro budgets sometimes. So in terms of that, like what particular thing did you feel like you had to conquer in order to make this film get to screen?
I think just coming up with locations was a real struggle, because paying for them, people would volunteer. I think that was really hard, just working with a small budget. Also, you don't have enough money to pay. I paid everybody on set, but I didn't have enough money for like extra conveniences and comforts that some people are used to. So that was hard, not to be able to provide that. So yeah, just that, finding the right locations, being able to have a big enough crew that could provide those creature comforts, that was a frustration.
Yeah. So I'm reading, Melissa and I talked a lot, so I'm trying to make sure I hit on a lot of the important questions. So just the programming director, capper from below. So a lot of films kind of evolve through the creative process, and did you feel like it changed dramatically from the editing, or do you feel like what you wrote was what you got on screen? I feel like that can go to both of you.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
So there's like a lot of people who write things and have one image. I feel like you kind of answered this a little bit. But then once you get to the editing process, the acting process, and then you're at the final cuts, you can even cutting scenes can really change the way, not the tone, but also kind of meaning. So did you feel like you had any of those moments where either it worked out or you felt like maybe you wish you had cut something a little bit differently or anything like that?
Me? Sorry. I've gone through so many edits of this film. I mean, the first edit was like 4+ hours, and then that wasn't doable. Like, if I included every scene that I wrote, which I didn't think I had that long of a script, it would have been like 6 hours long. Pretty boring too. So I just kind of whittled it down, and then as we got into like the film festival process, I heard so much feedback. They were like, it's too long, and it was a 2-hour cut. So I was like, okay, I gotta cut this out, and kind of, it does transform your story. But it's very close to what I wrote, and it did change a little bit in the editing room. I was editing along with the filming, because we filmed over such a long period of time, like 6-7 months, from like spring to fall. So I was editing along and putting in scenes, writing your scenes along as we were going.
Ours was less about obviously cutting things and more about there were several moments in the script that Jess, the actress who plays Libby, that scene where she says Jess's name, the first cut of that, she didn't really have that disdain in her voice when she said Jess, and so editing the film, it was more about choosing those moments where the tone of voice conveyed what we wanted it to. And so there were different moments where, you know, different shots, she played it once kind of subtly, and then the next time she was really angry, and kind of the four of us deciding really what conveyed the story the best.
So in terms of, I mean, both of your films deal with a lot of, I mean, especially knowing your inspiration, kind of socially important and socially heavy topics, especially substance abuse in the queer community. So making those kinds of films, do you feel like filmmakers have a responsibility either to culture, or do you think that you're responsible as a creative person to give back when you tell stories like this?
Go for it.
We
give you time.
the first screening of our short was actually at Outfest in LA, and I gotta say it was a life-changing experience in that I've always felt that diverse stories are important, but showing up to a film festival like Outfest and getting people's responses and having people come up to you and say, like, I've been waiting for someone to tell this story, or I've been waiting to see myself on the screen, or things like that. Like, it kind of stopped you in your tracks, because it's a lot more responsibility than you think it's going to be, and you realize that everyone's clamoring to see themselves and to hear their own voice and to see their human experiences reflected on a universal level. And so, yeah, I think it's absolutely a responsibility to make sure that everyone's heard and seen.
Everything she said.
Yeah, not asking easy questions, I guess.
I do feel like there is a responsibility. I mean, growing up, I didn't even know females could be directors. I literally did not know that. I was like, oh, if you want to be involved in film community, you have to be an actor. You have to be an actress. Or makeup. I had no idea. So, and let alone thinking about somebody that was a lesbian woman, being portrayed. I mean, I just didn't even think about that could be possible. So I do think there is a responsibility to tell stories that, if you have a chance to tell stories that not only you're passionate about, but that would affect the community, and they would like to see themselves represented.
Well, and I'd like to add that, like, not just in front of the screen and in the story, but hiring women and minorities, and making sure that the filmmaker crew reflects that diversity as well.
Yeah.
So go for it. Are there any questions that we can take from the audience? Yeah, great. Oh, sorry. It's 5:46.
Okay. Yeah, for Versus Girl, I have two questions. One was kind of answered already about the writing of the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Dialogue is very difficult to write, and there was this very wonderfully awkward or awkwardly wonderful communication throughout the entire thing. How much of that was actually written, or was it mostly improvised? And then the second question is, on record budget, how much difficulty do you have with the CTA?
Well, I'll answer the second question first. We shot the CTA scenes guerrilla style because
Guerrilla style?
Yeah, I guess, is that a correct term? I don't know. Yeah, we didn't have a permit. We got kicked out a lot, and we just kept sneaking back in. Just kept sneaking back in. We knew there'd be another station, another train, so we just kind of did that over and over.
I noticed you had gone to different.
Yeah, if you know what platform we're at, and you see a purple line pull up.
Yeah, it was like, this
Not
is
the right
Sedgwick.
one.
I'm like, you're at the Damon, bro.
Only Chicagoans will know that. We just went and did it. We showed up. Yeah, and I said, oh, well, we have a permit, but I didn't have a paper copy. I tried to make it work, but almost always we got kicked out. So.
I got a question. Where was the gazebo at? In the movie, there was a gazebo there, like by a park or something like that?
Yeah, that gazebo was...
Where is that located?
It's on Wayne.
It's on Wayne Street.
Wayne Street? God, that thing
Chicago
is so
moment.
old, it's pathetic.
Oh.
It's really,
So
really
did, like Frank said, did you get fined ever, or did you like
We didn't get fined.
finagle your way out of it?
Yeah, I think we were like giving a different production name and everything, so we were trying to.
Just like, oh no, we're doing somebody else. I don't know.
Waiting tables making this film, so it's like I didn't want to get. I was like, we have to get this, but very
Yeah.
secretly. But as far as dialogue goes,
What's the name of the cat?
the cat,
Mhm.
there's two cats, Teddy and Eva.
Teddy Neal?
Yes.
Yeah.
On their way to Hollywood.
Yes, they were great. They were good. The card game was a good moment of levity and darkness. So for the dialogue question.
Yeah, so as far as the dialogue goes, there was a lot of edits. Like you said, it's hard to write dialogue. But it was meant, the dialogue was written, but I always said just say it in your own voice. So long as you get the main grasp, that's all I care about. I'm not going to be a stickler for dialogue because I want it to feel natural. And I want the actors to have the freedom to be in touch with their character. And if something comes up, we'll do that take, and then if it's not right, we'll adjust and move on. So I wrote the dialogue, but then there was a lot of like, say it in your own voice, say it in your own tone, say what you want to say, added.
That came through.
Oh, thanks.
And any other questions?
Do you think you did that because you're an actress yourself?
Yes. Yeah, this was my third feature film that I got to act in, and I would say that like, yeah, I had a lot of mixed bag experiences, and that was really important to me. If I was going to make a feature film, that the actors would be empowered and have like space to bring their own like creativity to it.
Any other questions? Ooh. Okay, sure.
Yeah, this is Justin Howe. He's the cinematographer.
I just wanted to add that having you as the director in front of the camera, there were so many times where you roll, and then no one was really there to cut. And whenever you have kind of that outline of the script like that, it really, I felt like you two, it's like there's no way for you to cut in that situation. And then from that, there's so much organic
Yeah.
material.
I have a question.
Sure.
How old are you?
I don't know if a lady should answer. No, just kidding.
I'm 26.
How old are you?
God, I'm way older than that.
How old are you?
We're
Where am I getting?
We're good.
I'm already 63 years old, so I don't know. I'm just curious because she's got blonde hair, and I'm blonde my own self. How old are you?
Good question. Next question though.
You don't want to tell.
I think we had another hand in the middle. Anybody there?
The photographer too, that kept clicking the camera.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you repeat it?
I was curious about the concept of these multiple seasons within the film.
Yes. Good question. I liked the progression of when they met to be spring and to be full bloom, like everything in summer and the heat of summer, and then kind of things start falling apart when fall comes around. And so I thought the city would be really cool to showcase. I mean, it's hard because you edit so much of the footage down, but we did have a lot of really good like views of the city, of the changing landscape and everything of the seasons. But yeah, I meant the progression of their relationship and her own growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was noticeable.
Oh, cool. I'm glad you noticed that.
We have time for 2 more questions,
Okay.
so now would be the
Doing
time.
okay?
So in the scenes where it's kind of like, not group therapy, but it kind of seems like that.
Yeah.
How much of that did you script, or did you like find actors who were maybe like telling their own stories? Just curious.
Yeah, sure. So the first one is like an AA meeting, and that was majority scripted, and the My D character, that was an improvised story that he shared that I thought was awesome, and so I put that in there. And then for the like support group at the end of the film, those were all improvised stories Yeah, the acting is fantastic. I just told them like what subject matter I was hoping for and like kind of the shape of it and the feel of it, but then I just let free rein.
Thank you for like letting them share.
Yeah, it was powerful.
One more?
One
Anyone?
more? Anything?
Oh,
Yeah.
Arlo
Oh,
has
that's
a
okay.
question. Stand up. What is your question, Arlo?
Oh.
If you remember it, make sure to just go, wait!
Yeah. Any other questions? No?
Thank you guys all so much for coming. Sorry to interrupt you, Mariah. Please stick around because at 6:30 is a panel. It's our first panel. It's called Script to Screen, and then we have a very, very great group of filmmakers who are going to talk to you about all the bullshit it takes to make an indie movie. And they all have lots of different experience at different levels, and they're also all filmmakers who have films that are screening at this festival tomorrow. So it would be interesting for you to understand the process that they went through to make that all happen. And then you can watch it tomorrow and be like, yeah, I know how they did that. But also, like, you know, take a moment, you got some time, go to the bathroom, enjoy some beverages from the Davis Theater or wherever. And we'll see you guys all back here at 6:30.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank you
much.
all.